The opening track on the LP is called Black Box and was written quite early in the whole process. It's become the kind of axis for the record. It was inspired by something that happened back in '94 when myself and my partner were driving in the middle of nowhere in Scotland and a tornado bomber crashed in front of us, literally in front of us. 2 airmen were killed as a result. The idea of the pilot and what was going through his mind during the last 30 seconds kind of stuck with me, along with the idea of such an instantaneous event leaving you with a feeling of the banality of life or of continuing life. You know, the birds were singing as you could smell the field in the air, and everything just carried on as normal. In the end, it's become a kind of concept for the whole LP, the idea of this guy going down in a plane crash and his life flashing before him, and then as the LP unfolds, a series of memories come in the form of the stories that follow. Each story kind of represents a period in his life or an event that happened. These are tied in with the idea of liquid and liquids which have perhaps fueled his behaviour, such as alcohol, and the consequences that have arisen because of his alcoholism. There are various aspects to the idea of liquid, you know, perhaps the flow of adrenaline, perhaps the ice that he's about to crash into. The title Liquid came via one of the tracks that Samantha Kerbel contributed called Last Call for Liquid Courage, and that seemed to me to be an appropriate word to define everything really that was on the record. Liquid could mean alcohol, ice, blood, sweat, tears. All of these liquids had some sort of relevance to many of the tracks. With all the Recoil projects I've done, the writing and the recording process is simultaneous. I always start with absolutely nothing, and I have to sort of make each piece of the jigsaw and then put it together. There was a big change between Bloodline, which was '91, and Unsound Methods, which was 1997. This one is much more like Unsound Methods. Although I think lyrically it's much, much stronger, and the emphasis on the words is much greater this time.
I want you to know that being kind is overrated.
Atmospherically it's very similar, it's quite filmic, they're quite long stories and the music's very expansive. I'm working instinctively and I'm trusting my intuition on things. So until I start to get a particular feeling from the music, until that, I mean, the music dictates everything, that's the point. Unless it gives me a particular shiver, I reject it. So I end up with a series of soundscapes, if you like, that all have the kind of quality I'm looking for and somehow link together. And from there, I try to choose people that I think will enhance that. I came across Samantha Kerbel via a compilation CD that she had contributed something to, and her voice just stood out from everything else on this CD. So I got in touch with her, we traded emails and I sent her music and she sent me words, and almost like a blind date eventually, you know, we came to a point where we both had something we wanted to try, and then she came over and recorded. One of the songs she recorded, called Last Call for Liquid Courage, was the inspiration behind the title Liquid, in fact, and this particular song is really to do with the excesses of alcohol and the effect it can have on your inhibitions. And so it's really a drinking, shagging song, in fact. We managed to get her drunk, and so her performance was perfect for that, because she was actually in this state of inebriation when she sang it.
You thinking it is 4 a.m.? Baby, damn!
Wanna lick it up?
There's another spoken word artist called Nicole Blackman who appears on 3 tracks, who's a very different type of poet to Samantha. but again, she could provide a narrative.
You want a girl who could suck the chrome.
I was aware of work she'd done before with the Golden Palomino, so she came in quite late in the day, in fact, but that worked out really, really well.
So to extinguish, watching suitors stagger.
She certainly, in her previous work, had indicated that she would be right for the kind of atmosphere I had.
Now you're bone.
With Samantha, it wasn't so clear-cut, but from what I'd heard, I still felt that her storytelling was so strong that I would be able to make it work with the music. One of Samantha's tracks, for example, was called Supreme. It doesn't have necessarily a dark overtone to it until it comes within the context of the music, and then it takes on a whole different form.
Supreme talks about his baby's mother like a whore. Sweet 16 she is.
And I think it's quite interesting to work with poets because they don't have any real preconceived ideas about how their voice should sound within the music. They just know about their words and their delivery.
At 3, Supreme comes to give his boy a pat and a pound.
Diamanda Gallas is a trained opera singer who's also on Mute Records. And I was acquainted with her, but we didn't really know each other very well. But I'd always wanted to work with her because she's a brilliantly classically trained singer and has an incredible range of different styles that she can do. She did some brilliant work, and mainly kind of ad-libbed, which suited me fine because I like to sort of restructure everything once I've got the performance.
Locked himself away in his room. Before being seen, shouting at the window.
The video for Strange Hours is designed to represent the entire LP as well as that particular story, and consequently there are lots of images of ice and objects entrapped within ice. I had this kind of backing track which had a very much a blues feel, but with a kind of dub element as well. We also had this inkling of a story about somebody basically losing it and was keeping very strange hours and doing strange things. Michael Williams at Intro, who directed it, took the idea a little bit further by incorporating the story, really, of a man who had murdered his fiancée. So the girl appears in the video as his kind of memory, a sort of liquid memory.
I'll be waiting for you there.
I was always encouraged to be involved in music from the point where I had classical piano lessons at 8 years old, through to when I left school to work in a recording studio, on to joining various groups, ending up with Depeche Mode in 1981. And the Recall project actually began sort of halfway through my existence with Depeche Mode in 1986 as a kind of side project, although I carried on being in the group for many years after that. But Recall was kind of growing concurrent to it. I decided to leave the group in 1995 to concentrate fully on the project. By that stage I'd already released 3 Recall albums, but I had never felt I'd fully been able to give everything to them. And by the time I'd really had enough of being in a group, I was now able to concentrate on it. So the last album, Unsound Method, was the first true, what I would call a true Recall album, where it was fully my one-time project. It's always been an experimental project. It started off very, very much instrumental with samples and electronics, and really that background hasn't changed so much. It's just that I've moved on to bringing in all the different collaborators and vocalists and really trying to make the thing say a lot more, really. I keep an open mind about where Recall could go. I like the fact that it's always mutating. I'm quite eager to get back into the studio maybe next year to start working on something, and like with all Recall records, at the beginning it's just a blank sheet of paper.
I got really afraid. My heart missed a beat. I felt this had already happened, but I was about to see it again.